You're listening to SM Media. Hi folks, we are back for our first episode of the SM Media Scottish Women's Football Show for season 2024-2025, and it is that time of year again. It is the season prediction show. I'm Scott McPike. It is always a pleasure to be your host and always a pleasure to talk about all things women's football. It's a pleasure to welcome my two compatriots tonight. It's always a pleasure to be joined by Suzanne Mulvey. Welcome back.
It's great to be on. Obviously, a kind of exciting start in terms of some of the transfers, so it'll be good to kind of to touch base and to figure out what's been going on, the ins and outs of all the clubs.
It absolutely will be, yeah, and it's a pleasure to welcome back onto the show Abigail Strachan.
Thank you for having me back on, guys.
Always a pleasure. I am looking forward to this. As I say, we are usually way off with our predictions. We will be again this season, but it's a lot of fun. We've got a panel here who know all things SWPL, all things SWF as well. The way it's going to work, if you might have saw with SM Media FC, SPFL predictions, we do our top three, overachievers, underachievers. Obviously, a bit of a difference this season in the top flight with a bottom three. We're going to take a look as well. Eye-catching kind of player of the year, top goal scorer things as well. We'll look at SWPL 2, Championship, League 1, and then we'll do a wee bit of a fun one at the end when we look at the internationals. But Suzanne, as you said at the start, fairly exciting summer. A lot of transfers happening, a lot of clubs busy. It's shaping up to be another mammoth season as it usually is.
Yeah, definitely. There's been some really good transfers, some really interesting ones. Players that have been moving, between SWPL one sides that you maybe wouldn't be expecting. So definitely think it's going to be an exciting season. I think it's going to be just as tight at the top as it always is, and then with the three bottom ones, I think it's going to be really exciting down the bottom. It'll be really interesting to see who the three are at the end of the season.
And Abby, if we're in for anything like the drama of last season, it's going to be quite hard to top that.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously coming down to the last couple of games for obviously the winner and then who is getting relegated and things like that, I think it's definitely going to be another exciting one. As Suzanne said, a lot of good signings and a bit of kind of switching to the other side of the city for some people. But yeah, it should be a good season.
Let's get straight into it. We have a lot of things to get through. We're obviously going to start with the SWPL 1. Suzanne, obviously we spoke about last season. Celtic won it in a dramatic final day. It went to the wire against Rangers. Obviously, Rangers looking for a treble, won both cups. They nearly got there. Very dramatic ending to the season. We hope we're in for the same again.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously Celtic fans, if you could write a script, is exactly what they would want. Coming down to kind of the last kick of the ball the season before them, if you like, losing the league, to pretty much the same. The final minutes, getting that title, so exciting. I was at the game. What a game it was. Just absolutely fantastic advert for the women's game, and as you say, hopefully we're in for more this season. The exact same kind of excitement.
Abby, is it a case of last season Celtic and Rangers sort of pulled away from Glasgow City, or can you see Glasgow City maybe getting back into it? They've looked fairly busy over the summer.
I would actually, this is a hard one because I do think obviously with money wise, obviously Celtic and Rangers, as in the men's game, they will have the more money and the more depth within the squads. But I do also think Glasgow City have signed a few good signings. Lisa Evans, ex-Arsenal, West Ham, she's obviously got that experience abroad as well. So I think she definitely bringing the experience. And Katie Lockwood's obviously Hibs, then Hearts, and now at Glasgow City. And I think there's going to be a real challenge for them. And I think they've got the signings that are more than capable to do it. But I hope it's just as exciting as last season. Last game, that's kind of what you want.
Right, let's start the ball rolling. Suzanne, who wins the league?
I think for the past two seasons I've said Celtic, and obviously I was right last season. But I actually think that I don't really like the business that Celtic have done in the window. I don't. to me, you know, it's a lot of unknown, to be fair. You know, obviously Shannon McGregor, we know her from Hibs, but you know, there's not a lot of other kind of big names there. I believe that Rangers have done probably less business, but good business. I feel that they've got an experience. And for me, I will say the one key player for Rangers to possibly win the league will be Jane Ross again. I said it 2 years ago, she will be the difference in that squad. That's all they were missing, that experienced player leading the line. And I think with her fully fit back in there, I think that she could be the difference again this year.
Are you concerned about Rangers, the fact that Rachel Rowe, Rachel McLaughlin, there's a few players there that are away? Is that a concern?
I think that, you know, obviously big players, but I think the likes of bringing in Eamon Rafferty, Katie Wilkinson, I think Leah Eddy as well. You know, the fact that's kind of the experienced players, and obviously Leah Eddy knows the league really well. You know, she's experienced. She was a great player for Hibs, and I think, you know, stepping over to that professional setup, you know, where she's in every day around really quality players, I think that will make a big difference to her. And you know, she's kind of in the Scotland setup quite a lot now as well. So I think for me, yes, it is big blows for them, big losses, but I think that they weren't, you know, it was that tight last season, they weren't missing a lot. So like I said, they've not really done a lot of business, but the players that they've brought in, I think that they're not kind of unknown a lot. You know, you've got City have brought in, you know, 5 or 6 players, you know, Ukrainian striker, an American striker, and they probably will be fantastic players, but to us they're unknown. Whereas I feel with Rangers, we know what Amy Rafferty's about. She's been down south, you know, playing for years, playing with Northern Ireland, great quality player. Katie Wilkinson banging in goals for Southampton. I think that they types of players are, you know, they're proven, and obviously the likes Jo Potter bringing them in. She knows the players, and I think that she's done her business well and just know, you know what, this is where I need players. Players I've left, this is what I need, the gaps that I need filled. And I think that's what she's done, rather than just bringing in players for the sake of it. I think that she's been really clever with the business. And another one to mention as well, I've noticed Megan Cunningham back from Partick Thistle. You know, she's been involved in a couple of pre-season games as well, which is really good. I like Megan, she's a good player, a really good person as well. So it's good for her to be back in the mix there, and hopefully she'll be, you know, in for a shout and challenging Jenna Fife, and, you know, obviously like the other players as well. I hope that, you know, that they get a good chance. And yeah, as I say, I do like the business that they've done. City have brought in really a lot of players, obviously Kate Lock with Lisa Evans, we know. But for me, I think that Rangers are looking good. They weren't lacking a lot, so I think that they're quite strong.
So as a vote for Rangers for Suzanne, Abby, where are you going towards the title?
I'm also going to say Rangers because I think they've got kind of like, they've obviously, as Suzanne said, they've brought quality over quantity, and I think that's quite key. Sometimes a lot, obviously, the likes of Celtic and Glasgow City, they've brought in quantity, but they've not brought in players that we'll know or like we've seen in games. Obviously, there's a few names that we've mentioned that we do know, and I would say the ones that Rangers have brought, like Leah Eddy for Hibs, I think this is the right time for her to make that move, and kind of she'll probably agree that it's the time for her to get that challenge, because she was most likely always starting for Hibs, you know, and you kind of want that challenge for the starting 11. You don't want to each week the same lineup or the same like back 4 or back 3 or the goalkeeper, you know what I mean? You want that kind of challenge within the squad. So I would say Rangers are most likely, I would say the winners, and because they've got that drive, because obviously they were so close last season to win it, and then they obviously missed out.
I do think Rangers will win it. I don't think there was a lot in it last season, and I agree with you both. There is a slight concern that a couple of players have left, but again, they have seemed to have kind of replaced them pretty well. I think Lee Eddy could be a massive sign. I think bringing her in, I think that is the kind of the solidity that backline was needing. Also think that Rachel Rowe obviously was a big miss, but as you say, they brought players Katie Wilkinson, Olivia McLaughlin, they'll do pretty well. And they've got a really good squad as well. Obviously, Suzanne says about Jane Ross, Rio Hardy was sensational. Mia McCauley, I think, could have a massive season, as could the Brogan Hay. I think Rangers are stacked, and I think there's less questions about Rangers than there is about the other two. And that leads us on to second and third. Suzanne, in order, who finishes second and third, and why?
Celtic second, and again I think it'll be tight. It'll be, you know, last game of the season kind of thing for them, and I think they've still got a really good squad. You know, we always talk about Caitlin Hayes, we always talk about Kelly Clark, Natalie Ross, Chloe Craig. They've still got that strong core. It's just, for me, the biggest thing that won them the league was Natasha Flint coming back in. You always need to have goals. You always need to have a top goal scorer, a striker. And that, again, is one of the worrying things for me, that they've not kind of got that prolific striker in there. So for me, that's why I put them in second. And in third, I think it's going to be a really interesting one, because I feel that City weren't far off the pace at all. You know, when you're talking about resources and talking about some of the performances, you know, they got draws against the top ones. So I think for me, they'll still be in around it. But I really like Hibs' business this year. Okay. I think Grant Scott's starting to really put his stamp on the squad. And, you know, the players that he, signing Kathleen McGovern, what a signing that is for him. I like their business. I like what they've done, and I really do think that they'll be back up there, possibly challenging for that third spot.
Okay, so it's interesting. You go with Hibs, or you go with City?
I'd like to see City still up there, but I think that Hibs could possibly put them to it.
That's a big vote for Hibs there. I'm liking that. Okay, Abby, where are you going? Second and third?
Second, I've got Celtic. I'm also going to agree. I think it's just going to be a close one. Obviously, both the teams have got that depth in the squads. And then I've put Glasgow City third. As much as I would like to see Hibs up there, I don't think they'll manage it this season. But I do believe that Glasgow City might, towards the end of the season, kind of drop off from Celtic and Rangers, and then Hibs kind of be right behind them, just based on they're well known in the women's game. Like, they are like champions. What was it, 15 years in a row? I think it was. So they've got that to go, and they've lost out on it twice now in a row. So will they try and come back, and the players that have been there for quite a long time, they'll know what it feels like on the last game of the season not to win it, and the heartache and the whole situation like that. So I feel like they'll still be in with a chance near the end. I think they'll drop off. I think, will it be that whoever's in the Sky Sports and like who's getting further in the cup competitions as well, does the tiredness kind of bring into it? Because I wouldn't say Glasgow City have like kind of the depth that the other two teams do have.
I think we're in agreement, Abby. Celtic, I think second. I do think, obviously, despite the fact Celtic have made a lot of change, I do trust the Elena that I think we've seen already. She's got a good track record, and just because we don't know who the players are, I mean, we didn't know who Tash Flint was when she came in, and she was absolutely sensational. So I do think Celtic will look very strong. It will go very close. Like, as you say, these three are so far ahead that again, it will just come to the kind of final games and probably the games against each other. City, I quite like City's business. I'm not going to lie. I think Katie Lockwood's a massive signing. I think Lisa Evans brings that experience. Amy Anderson could be a wee under the radar signing from Motherwell. I think bringing in's a good bit of business as well. And they've brought some players in that, by all reports, just looking at kind of stats and previous players like the Lady Van Diemen from Holland. I think she's got quite a good reputation. They've just done a good bit of business, and I do think they'll have enough to be third. It will be close. It will be close. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens here. But Rangers, Celtic, City, right, overachievers. So last season, I would probably say Thistle fit this category. Sides that you maybe wouldn't expect to get into the top six. Maybe we're a bit behind last season to maybe have a big season this year. Suzanne, who's your overachievers? Who do you think could be a wee top six side going under the radar?
The two teams that I've put down are Queen's Park and Partick Thistle.
Okay.
I think Partick Thistle are on the right track. Limited resources. I think they do good business. They've got a couple of good signings in. I think that they will do the same. I think they will be right up there challenging for top six. But I quite like Queen's Park. We know Craig quite well, and he's an experienced coach, and I think that they've signed a few players that have got SWPL 1 experience already. It's just whether or not they can gel. It's just whether or not they can step up and actually start showing what they can do for Queen's Park. So I think that they will be right up there, kind of in terms of top of the bottom few. I don't think they'll have any problems in terms of going down or bottom three or anything like that. So I think that Queen's Park could possibly be the ones to watch.
Abby, who's your overachievers?
I probably agree with Partick Thistle. I think obviously over the couple of years, in the last two seasons especially, kind of seen them, they're only part-time now. Still, I think this season most of them will be part-time, but I think it kind of shows you that sometimes it's not the full-time teams as well. Like, I think it's all about the hard work behind the scenes, and I think obviously having a manager like Brian Graham who knows Partick Thistle quite well, obviously he plays for the men's team and he'll know some of the players really well, and I think they'll definitely be the overachievers. But I also think kind of Hibs will probably kind of reach that level as well. I think obviously the last 2 seasons I would say they kind of dropped off from getting not really into any, they've not got far in many cups, you know, they've not won a trophy for a while. I do think they're going to come up, I think, and hopefully I would like to see them even win like the Sky Sports Cup. Obviously that is a smaller trophy, but I would say with the signings they've got, like Kathleen McGovern, Kira Grant, Kirsten Riley, you know, they're experienced players, they know the game. It's just whether they'll gel. So I think Partick and Hibs for me.
Okay. I do like Queen's Park. I think they've kept most of their core and they've added quite well. Just looking at some of the players they brought in, I think there's some terrific bits of business there, like Morgan Hay, Rosie McQuillan, Jordan McClintock. Bringing them in is really good as well. Some good business in there. A couple of loans from Rangers and a couple of players from Hamilton who know the league quite well. I think I'm Queen's Park, but I wouldn't put anyone off taking a wee look at Partick Thistle again, because again they're such a tight knit. Top six, a massive achievement for them last season, getting to a cup final, so well coached. I think Brian Graham's a terrific coach as well. I've got a lot of time for him and the job he's done there, and he's added well in certain areas, like obviously Hannah Robinson coming in from Spartans, Tyree Birchall coming in from Celtic. Really good business. But I do think Queen's Park, I think Queen's Park could be the ones that really kick on. I think they could be challenging top six. Underachievers, Suzanne, it's quite a hard category. It's probably the hardest one of this list. Who do you see disappointing this season? Because there's a lot of sides that are doing really smart recruitment. It's quite difficult, this.
I think it's going to be kind of similar to, I'm pretty sure I said it last season, Motherwell Aberdeen. I think Motherwell, with the experienced players that they've got in there, you know, sometimes they go out and they win, you know, 3-0, a fantastic performance, and then the next week they get beat 2-0 or 3-0 from a side that are kind of below them or round about them. They should be challenging, picking up the points. So I think for me, probably Motherwell, just because they're so unpredictable. You know, they're not in a relegation battle because they do grind out the results that they need to. But then other weeks they just, they just go way off, and it literally depends on what team turns up on the Sunday. I feel that it's two completely different sides that they've got. When they turn up, they're fantastic. They could be up there challenging for the top six, but then when they don't, I feel that they are kind of one of the bottom teams that really need to worry. So it's just Paul trying to get that balance in there and try and get them playing the way that they can every week, because they've got the potential there. They've definitely got the players. So it's just kind of getting that consistency. And for me, that's the only reason why I'm saying them, just because if they're the same as they have been the last 2 seasons, just so unpredictable.
Abby, who's your underachievers?
I would say Montrose. This transfer window, they've been pretty quiet to signing new players. I obviously remember at the end of this last season, they did sign on some of the players that were there. So I don't think there's been much. I could be wrong. I'm not been keeping up to date really, but I could be wrong with they might have made a few transfers, but there's no one that's kind of signed for them. I'm thinking that's a good player, that's a key player. But I also agree with Suzanne with Motherwell. They're obviously that sort of team that's so unpredictable. But I kind of think they've signed this transfer window. They've signed like Mason Clark, who's a young one that knows the game quite well. Jenna Penman. I think they'll just do it. But I do think Montrose. I mean, they know how to get a last-minute winner as well, so could it be that they keep getting saved with the last-minute winners? Who knows, but I think Montrose.
Aberdeen are the ones I'm going for, but I think this is very hard to call. Motherwell, I think, could do okay, but I think that they've lost a lot of players, but I think Aberdeen have lost I think their key player, I think Bailey Hutchison, leaving them is a massive loss. Have they replaced her? I'm not sure. But Bailey Hutchison and Ailey Shaw both leaving to go to Hearts. I think a couple of others went to Hearts as well. They're massive players to replace, and I think that the struggle to attract players is quite important there. They could underachieve and finish 9th. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure if they go down, but I'm not sure they're anywhere near where they want to be. and I think that's going to be the big thing for me. But Aberdeen are the ones for me. Right, obviously a bit of a change this year with the way the league's going to work. It's going to be a bottom three, so 3 teams are going to go down. So again, a team could have an unbelievable season and finish 10th, just the way it's going to work this season. Suzanne, who is your bottom 3 this season?
I think this has been the hardest one for me because I do feel that there are quite a few teams that will struggle. I've got 4 teams. I'll pick a bottom 3, but I've got 4 teams at the moment who I think really will struggle, and they are Montrose, Aberdeen, Dundee United, and Spartans. Sorry, Abigail. Yeah, I feel Spartans. I mean, you can't lose your captain Anna Marshall, the experience of Louise Mason, the goals of Becky Galbraith, plus quite a few other players I've listed as well, and not struggle. And the signings, yeah, there's been a few signings in, but they're not kind of renowned, experienced players. So for that reason, I think that they will struggle. Along with Dundee United, obviously struggled last season. They were lucky in the playoffs, but again, they don't seem to have done a hell of a lot of business. Signed a few from St Johnstone, but there's not been a lot going on there. And kind of just echoing what you said, Montrose, they lost Gammy and Ridgway, their 2 most experienced players retired at the end of last season. And I'm sure there was a couple of winners from them, that last minute equalisers or winners, what we had mentioned there. So I think that they'll struggle a bit. And the same way Aberdeen, they like Scott just says, have they replaced Bailey Hutchison? I don't think you could ever replace her in terms of the talent that she brought to them for years. And me and Scott, we've spoke about this so much. And she needed to move. No disrespect to Aberdeen, but she needed to move. She's a fantastic player. Mm-hmm. She should be knocking on the door of the Scotland squad. The pace that she's got, the finishing that she's got, the composure. She should definitely be up there because Scotland are not, they've not got lots and lots of strikers there. I feel at times they struggle. So she should be knocking on that door. And I think her move to Hearts has been absolutely fantastic for her. I think that will help push her on. But in terms of Aberdeen, I think that the amount of goals, top goal scorer when you're playing for a team like Aberdeen is absolutely phenomenal. So for that reason, they'll struggle. So out of the 4 that I've said, I think that the one who will be safe, I'd say Spartans, just because in the league, I like I could be these like no, I like their I spoke about this when Debbie was on. I like their community feel, and I like what they've done for the league, and it is more a sentimental thing. I think they're a fantastic community club, and it would be so sad to see them if they did go down. So for that reason, I hope that they are safe. But on the other hand, Susie Shepherd's a really good friend of mine, so it'd be sad to see her go down with Dundee United. But yeah, I think that Spartans could possibly be safe. So Montrose, Aberdeen, and Dundee United.
This is going to be a tough season, isn't it? Because of the way it's going to go, 3 are going to get down. Obviously, I kind of get why they've done it, but again, you're looking at this going 10th last season would have been absolutely fine, but 10th this season is going to get you down. It's so tough. Abby, I'm hoping you give us a reason not to pick Spartans. I'll be astonished if they're in your bottom 3, but give us your bottom 3 and then give us a reasons why Spartans aren't in it.
So I would say the same as Suzanne, Dundee, Montrose and Aberdeen. I just don't think their transfer window has been that successful. I think they've obviously, all 3 of them, I would say, have lost very key players. Obviously for Montrose, they've lost the players that would score them those last minute equalisers. For Aberdeen, top goal scorer's gone. I don't think any of the teams have filled the void kind of with their key players. If they were to say find someone that would fill that void, would that be enough to save them? But I just don't think they have. But as of Spartans, I think kind of looking on paper, they're not experienced players like obviously Louise, Becky and Alana. But from me being there pre-season, I think there's obviously a lot that have come from Hearts. You've got Olivia and Kate on loan. You've got Erin and Ailey. I think them kind of being together. You've obviously then got Chris as assistant manager. He's been at Hearts, so I think kind of that whole kind of vibe that they kind of bring in. I think as well, they're young players that haven't been given that opportunity. I think, and I think now's their time to shine. And by speaking to a few of them, I think kind of they know it's their time to shine. I was doing media today, and they're all like, it's their first time doing it, and I think, but it kind of shows that they're willing to do it because there's a few youngsters that wouldn't. So I would definitely say you have lost a few key players, the ones that I've kind of grown up with, like Alana, Becky, Callie, Louise, but I think they've kind of filled the void, but by young players. And I think sometimes you look at a team, you think the experienced players are needed, and I think kind of the now experienced players are the likes of Sarah McClelland, Robin McCafferty, Mona Douglas, and things. So I think they'll hopefully avoid any kind of bottom mishaps from happening.
Right, okay. Montrose, I think, will be in there. I just think they've lost a lot of experience, and I really like Craig as a coach, and I think he's done a terrific job there. But I think it's really hard to replace him. And again, looking at the business, I don't necessarily think they have. Dundee United, I think I kind of agree with Suzanne. I think they were very, very fortunate in the playoffs. They've done okay business bringing in obviously Moody and Cowie for St Johnstone. They've obviously brought in Stacey McFadden, who's terrific for Dryborough, but they've lost a lot as well. Like they've lost Rachel Todd's gone, Megan Sidey's gone as well. They're big players to lose as well. Dundee United, I think they're in again, probably similar. Nabby, I apologise in advance. I just think Spartans are going to be unlucky. Just with the way the league's going to turn up, they've lost some big players. Rhea McCafferty's a massive loss as well. Like she's massive to not have her there as well. I just think it might be a very unlucky season for a couple of clubs that they might have a terrific points tally, would have got them safe in many seasons, but this season's just going to be the unlucky one. Montrose, Dundee United and Spartans, I'm going to go with Suzanne. Right, let's go into Player of the Year. Suzanne, a lot of players at probably as high a level as you can hope for. Who do you think's the one that could have a massive season and be the kind of award recipient come the end of the campaign?
I'm going to go with a player that I know quite well, and that's Jane Ross.
Okay.
I think that she's one of the strongest characters that I know in women's football. She's got one of the best work ethics that I've ever seen out of every team that I've ever played for. And I know that she will come back hungrier and stronger. And I know how she works. I know how hard she trains. And I think that I don't know if she could play until she's 40 odd or whatever. But every season gets more and more closer to retirement. And I think for her, she's really going to push on this season. And I think that she will be right up there.
Abby, who is your Player of the Year?
I've kind of got two. I've got Kathleen McGovern and Leah Eddy. I think kind of
Okay.
both of them last season, I would say Kathleen McGovern at Hearts was really good, but I think she kind of got into the flow too late, and I don't think she kind of suited the Hearts style play kind of thing. But I think kind of by going to a Hibs pre-season game and obviously some other footage, I think she will fit in that, and I think kind of the other players surrounding her will also suit the kind of style that she plays. But then I've also said Leah Eddy because I think it is the time for her to shine. I think she's now kind of just getting recognised at Scotland, but it's kind of like she's getting kind of picked up if someone's injured. But I think kind of she's an underrated player, I think, for many years. She's obviously always been in that starting 11 for Hibs unless she was injured. So it'll be a hard one because it's kind of, will it be a striker? Will it be someone less known? Those are just the two that I think kind of spring to my head.
I think Kirsty McLean could earn a massive move in the summer, albeit if she stays, because there was kind of chat that she wasn't staying. But I think what I've heard, she's going to be there. She obviously had a bad injury last season that kind of kept her out for the kind of second half. I think if she stays fit, she could just be a different level this year. I think this could be her season where she just goes on to a different planet. I think she is potentially the next superstar. I think you could look at her and just a style of play, just her head as well. I think she just looks to be just a really stable talent that I hope just kicks on. I think this season Kirsty McLean could be the one. Top goal scorer, Suzanne, who's going to walk away with the golden boot?
I'm going to say Bailey Hutchison again.
Okay.
Just for the simple reason that if she can manage to bang that many goals in for Aberdeen, then with the players around at Hearts, The business that Hearts have done as well. Lisa Robertson, what a signing that is for Hearts. Absolutely fantastic player in person. Sad to see her leave Celtic, but fantastic move for her, and she'll want to prove herself. You know, she was in contract talks at Celtic. It didn't quite transpire, so she will want to prove herself, and she will go out there and you know, do what she does best, battle away, and hopefully put it on a plate for Bailey Hutchison. I think, you know, like Sam McGough, Jane Ross, we've not even spoken about Kirsty Howard, you know, loads of different players. You know, at Glasgow City, the top 3-4 sides will all have players that are right up there. If you're challenging for the league, you've got to have players that are banging in the goals. So yeah, I think possibly Bailey Hutchison, but there will be, you know, McGough, Kirsty Howard, Jane Ross. I think they'll all be up there as well.
Abby, who's the top goal scorer?
I've gone with Kathleen McGovern. I think kind of last season the impact she had on the Hearts, and I think kind of her moving to Hibs and the players that are around her, she knows most of the players quite well, kind of at youth level and kind of obviously through friends, and I think that kind of helps. I don't think Bailey Hutchison this season will. I think it depends. Will she put the boots back on and that's it, goals, 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 or will she put them back on and find it hard to gel with the team? I think that's like the thing you don't know until, I would say, the 3rd, 4th game of the season. I would say she'll be up there, but I don't think she'll win. I think McGovern will now kind of prove her point. I don't think she started as many Hearts games as she kind of hoped to. But I would say she's probably in that starting 11 for Hibs.
You could literally have about 10 candidates for this. Something says to me Lisa Forrest, but I'm not going to pick her. I think she will be up there. I think she could be a massive player this season for Glasgow City. I'm going to go Amy Gallagher. I think just the big games that she has. Again, I've heard a couple of things coming out of Celtic that the Irish striker they've signed, I think her name's Saoirse Noonan. Somebody can shoot me for the pronunciation of that because I don't think it's right. But somebody said that a few people I spoke to said she could be a real talent. But Amy Gallagher's been so important for them over the past few years. What she did in the last day. She will score goals. Look at the games where they won about 9-10-0. How many is Amy Gallagher scoring? She's scored about 4 or 5 in one game quite a few times. She is a main player for Celtic, and I think she's probably the one. If Celtic are to challenge, I think Amy Gallagher will be their kind of key player along with Caitlin Hayes. But Amy Gallagher obviously is a kind of more forward player. Yeah, Amy Gallagher for me. But again, you could have 9 or 10. You could literally just put this in a hat and you could pick anyone. Like there's so much depth and attacking talent. Right, who could be an eye-catching signing? There's been a lot of good signings in the league over the summer. Suzanne, what's a signing that you think has caught the eye?
I've put down Lisa Robertson just because I think she will make a massive difference to Hearts. They've lost a couple of players, but I think her going in there will be great. But again, I've also got Bailey Hutchison down. I think she was a bit too comfortable at Aberdeen. And again, no disrespect to Aberdeen, but she needed the move. And I hope that this is perfect timing for her. She didn't look as fit as she had been, so I hope this full-time environment, I hope that she just absolutely kicks on, gets herself super fit, and is absolutely flying. But yeah, there's, you know, McGovern going for Hearts to Hibs was a total shocker to me. You know, I thought when she had announced that she was leaving Hearts, I thought it would have been back to Celtic because she had played at Celtic before. I really thought they needed a striker. I thought she would have been the perfect player to fill that gap. So to see that move over to Hibs, who finished below them in the league, to me was a bit of a shocker. But not really a step backwards because, again, I think that Hibs have done good business, so they'll push on. So, you know, there's a few players in there, and I think that it is the players that have moved around Scotland that are ones to watch rather than incoming players from other leagues or other countries. I think that definitely the likes of McGovern or Bailey Hutchison or Liedi or, you know, players like that, I think definitely are the ones to watch.
Abby, who's your signing to keep an eye on over the season?
I've kind of got 3. I would agree with Suzanne. You could put anyone in there. I think it's kind of, until the season starts, you don't really know. But for me, Lisa Evans, I think the experience that she brings in, obviously Arsenal, she was abroad at Bayern, I think it was, and then kind of West Ham. She's got that experience, and I think from what I've heard from her interviews, this is probably her last team. She kind of said this is where it started, this is where I kind of want to end it. So I think she'll want to end it all on a high. But I've also put Erin Rennie for Spartans. A bit biased, But I think I think she was at Hibs, then Hearts, and I don't think she got the playtime that she deserved. Obviously I've been at a few pre-season games, and I think just from watching her there, she just looks like she's a different person and a different quality that she brings to the Spartans team. And I think she's still so young that her game is developing. And the third one would be Katie Lockwood. She's also been at Hibs, then Hearts, and now Glasgow City. She's at Glasgow City for 2 years. I think her other two contracts were a year. I don't think that gives her enough kind of time to kind of settle in. And I think her signing this 2-year deal will allow her to settle in. She'll know that she's there for 2 years, so that there won't be that uncertainty of not being there. And I think she was kind of underrated the last couple of seasons, so I would like to see her do really well at Glasgow City.
Kathleen McGovern, I think, could be a game changer for Hibs. And I didn't want to say how good Hibs would be until I came on this show, because I wanted to get the seal of approval from the both of yous. But Kathleen McGovern isn't going to Hibs for no reason. That's a massive signing. And you're right, she could have went to any of the top sides. And Hibs has obviously attracted her some way. I thought Hibs would struggle when I saw that Joelle Murray had retired. The back home had left as well. But you look at the business we've done, like Cara Grant bringing her in as well, international. Kirsten Riley coming in, there was good reports on her as well. There's a lot of depth in that Hibs squad, and I think this could be their season. But Kathleen McGovern is probably one of the best signings they could have made, and I really think that could be a massive
One other signing that we've not mentioned that is absolutely probably baffled a lot of people, but makes sense. Scott Booth going to Glasgow City.
Yeah, that was a weird one. I didn't see that coming. No.
Yeah. I've spoke to him quite a few times in the past. He had tried to sign me a couple of times, had lengthy conversations. He knows the game, he's a good tactician. I think that it's probably baffled a lot of people, because normally he goes in as a head coach or manager role. So to be in there with Leanne Ross, but they've worked together before in terms of manager captain. They know each other really well, and again, you don't go to a club unless you're comfortable and know exactly what's happening. And I think there will be a great understanding between them there. And I think that we speak about players moving club to club, but I think that him going there, and also as well, on the other hand, you've got Joelle Murray, being the assistant manager at Grant as well. I think that they're really interesting ones that could make a big difference as well in terms of some performances.
I had a wee theory about that.
Okay, what's your theory?
I think Leanne Ross is potentially being not groomed.
Scotland manager?
Yeah, and I think Scott's going in there. Don't quote me on that, but if that happens, I wouldn't be surprised, because I think if we get to the last prediction, I think if it's a no, I think we will see a change in the Scotland job. And who better than Leanne to go in there? So, but again, don't shoot the messenger. I'm only saying from my own head, that isn't any inside rumour, that's just me. But yeah, that to me could be a very, very interesting call. And again, Scott knows Glasgow City so well. Do you know what I mean? He was massive there for years. He was such a big influence there. Right, the two cups. Just quickly, Suzanne, who wins the two cups?
Sorry, excuse me. I think that it will kind of be the same as what it has been the last couple of seasons, that whoever wins the league, I think that the other one will win one or two of the cups. So I'd said Rangers for the league, so potentially Celtic. And I quite like, Abigail's theory as well, possibly a wee Hibs in there, or maybe Hearts as well. They did well getting to the Scottish Cup final. So it'd be good to see somebody else, right up there. And again, never write off Glasgow City, never ever write them off. The players that they brought in, the fact that they brought in, Scott as well. So I think that it probably won't be Rangers for the simple reason I think that it will be kind of mixed over the teams.
Okay, so you're going Celtic Cup double then?
Celtic definitely one of them, and I'll say Hibs one of them.
Very good. Ari, who wins the cups?
I would agree. I would say Hibs for Sky Sports, and then I would say for the other one is Celtic. I think Hibs they've had a really weird cup runs, I would say, in the last two seasons. They've knocked out Glasgow City, and then they get Rangers and get beat by them 6-0. So for me, I think it's all obviously down to pressure. But I think if they kind of go in with the mindset of it's a cup game, anything can happen. And I think they have this season, especially that depth to get the goals, to have a good defence and all that. So I would like to see, Hibs win the Sky Sports. I think they obviously got to the final 2 seasons ago against Rangers, and that was a close game. So I'd like to see them. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Hearts are also in with a chance. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be 2 Celtic, 2 Edinburgh teams for the semis, and then kind of after them see who gets in. But I think Celtic, if they're by the end of the season, you know who's won the league. So I think it all depends on who wins the league. Obviously, I've said Rangers are going to win it, so I think Celtic will now look at that as their only thing to win if they don't win other things. So I think Hibs and Celtic are going to win them.
Interesting. I think Celtic for the Scottish and Rangers to win at the Sky Sports Cup. I think Rangers are usually pretty good at that time of the year. Do you know what I mean? Like they've won it the last 2 seasons. I do think that's their cup. And Celtic usually do kick on towards the end of the season, and I think it could be the same here. Right, SWPL 2. Now, just looking at the league, obviously, this looks fairly tight. A lot of unknowns here. Obviously, Ayr coming up along with Rossvale, Hamilton coming down. Some sides obviously kind of doing a bit of changes as well. A lot of sides doing business. Suzanne, who wins SWPL 2? I think this is very, very hard to predict.
I have put down Kilmarnock.
Okay.
I think that they've been on a kind of journey. They've been, slowly getting stronger and stronger, better and better. And I think that the potential that they've got, and how kind of close they were until they tailed off a bit at the end of the season. But I think that the potential they're up there. And I think it's going to be the exact same as every other year. I think there will literally be 3 or 4 other teams who are literally fighting out for that second spot. Right up to kind of the last few weeks of the season. I think it'll be really tight, but I do think that it's going to be one of the new teams that are right up there. I feel Gartcairn done it. They surprised us, a couple of seasons ago, and then they've completely tailed off. I think potentially Ayr or Rossvale are really going to surprise us and really kind of push on and be fighting for that second spot.
Abby, who wins SWPL 2?
I'm just going to say Gartcairn. I think kind of last season they managed to get safe, and I think this season, just by obviously they got a new manager towards the end, and they've kind of signed quite experienced players. Obviously, I think there was 5 signings on one day, I think they announced or something, and I think they're not just signing players for the sake of signing players. You've got the likes of Kayla. They brought one in today from Partick Thistle. They're players that have played in the top league. I think they could surprise us. I think kind of having a proper season with a new manager. Obviously, he came in at the end of last season, but kind of a fresh start, fresh start, new players. I think it's a totally different team, and I think they will surprise us this season.
I thought Gartcairn would do quite well, actually. I do think they could be up there, but Kilmarnock, I think this is their season. They've been knocking at the door for a couple of years. Haven't lost a lot. I think Jordan McClintock going to Queen's Park's a big loss, but I do think they've signed pretty well. Like they brought in Bargatti from Glasgow Women. They've brought a few players in from Celtic, Bailey Hanby for Glasgow City. I just think it's Kilmarnock's year. I think they're ready to go, and they've got such good experience in there. They've got a really good coach. They're just ready, I think, for that step up, and I think this could be their season. Team to watch, Suzanne. Who's creeping up on SWPL 2? Who could be the team that could surprise us this season?
I briefly mentioned it there. I think I say Ayr or Rossvale. I quite like Rossvale. I think that they've got quite a bit of experience in there that have played SWPL 1, SWPL 2. So I think that potentially they could be ones that could absolutely just smash it. One team that I've not mentioned yet, Boroughmuir. Obviously the business of them signing Becky Galbraith, signing Louise Mason. I think that's big players for them, and that amount of SWPL 1 experience can completely, change the whole dynamic of their team. So again, they could be one of the ones that's in that kind of, for second to 5th spot. But yeah, I think that potentially Rossvale could really push on.
Abby, who's the team to watch in SWPL 2?
I'm also agreeing. I think Boroughmuir Thistle kind of the signings they've made, and they're all kind of, obviously Louise and Becky, they know each other, and I'm pretty sure a few might come later on because also there's a few that left Spartans. So I think kind of the link up, they'll know each other quite well. They've played together for years. Can they put it into that game? Also agreeing with Rossvale, Spartans did play them in a pre-season, and they did look, even though they've kind of come from not a lot a couple of years ago to now here, I think kind of they didn't look that they had not been in the leagues that long. I think they looked really strong. obviously it is pre-season, anything kind of happens with it, but I think Bournemouth will do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Rossvale kind of sit quite nice in the top 4, I would say.
I think Rossvale. I think they were excellent last season, and they brought in some really good experience as well. Chloe Gibney, Fagat Cairn, like there's some good players in there. Barry Crooks as well. Like they were a real impressive side last season. Don't think they've lost many players as well. Rossvale could be. I don't know whether they're ready to go straight up, but I wouldn't imagine they're far away. I think they could be kind of third or fourth. Ayr could do pretty well as well. Wouldn't put off anyone off Livingston as well. New coach, new experience, just a bit of stability for Livingston. But I do think they've signed pretty well. But Rossvale for me could be the team to watch. Player to watch in this league. Give us a wee shout out, Suzanne, to a player who could catch your eye in this division.
Becky Galbraith. I think her absolute goal scoring ability for Spartans. You know, what a player, what a striker. I think that she will score goals for fun, and again that could kind of determine their position in the league. So I think that she's just a natural goal scorer. You know, I don't have any doubt in my mind that she's going to bang in, you know, 20, 25, 30 goals easily. I think that she will absolutely bang in the season, have a great season.
Abby, who's your player to watch in SWPL 2?
Probably Becky Galbraith or Louise Mason. I think Louise Mason's kind of been underrated for a few seasons now. I think kind of trying to find that starting point in the 11 and kind of trying to get game time. I think this move's probably the perfect time for her. Obviously, she's one of the older players. So I think it's now the right time for her to kind of end it on a high. Not end it like obviously this season, but eventually kind of end it with a really good successful season. Obviously, with that link up between Louise and Becky, I think there's a connection there on the pitch. So I think it'll be a close one, kind of between them. I think Becky, as Suzanne said, will bang in plenty goals. I think she is not just one for tap-ins either. But it's either Louise or Becky for Bournemouth Thistle.
We had Claire Docherty on towards the end of last season, and I remember telling her, I said, you will kick on massively in the SWPL too, and I think she will. I think she'll be sensational for Ayr. Again, she always is. But she's somebody who deserves to be playing at that level. And I think if Ayr to do well, it's going to be because of Claire. They've kept a lot of their big players like Charlotte Ferguson, Laura McBlain, they're all still there. Claire Docherty for me, though, is the key of that Ayr side. If Ayr do well, it's because of Claire Docherty, so I'm going to go for her. Quick word on the Championship and League One. I have to be honest, we haven't really looked in too much into these leagues yet because then they're quite hard to judge because you've got a lot of movement, you've got a lot of sides coming up. Suzanne, who do you think would win the Championship? Just obviously kind of doing the rounds, has anything caught your eye?
Yeah, obviously East Fife kind of done well last season, but Renfrew, I quite like the look of them in there. I think that they're a kind of team who keep, you know, the core of their players, and I've got players that have got a bit of experience playing higher up in the league, so I think there's a bit of potential there.
Renfrew for Suzanne. Abby, who do you think wins the Championship?
I'm going to say Falkirk. I think they've made a few good signings in SLPL 1 and 2. I think they've signed Shannon Todd. Obviously, she's been at a lot of clubs in the SLPL 1, most recently at Hamilton. I'm pretty sure they've signed Rogan Anderson.
Yeah, they have.
I can't remember if that's right. Obviously, she played at Motherwell and then she had to, was it Edinburgh South, I think she went to, due to uni, I think. And obviously, I think it's the right move for her. So I would say they've made a few good signings of the SLPL 1 experience, so I want to say that they'll do quite well.
Falkirk were the one I was leaning on as well. I think Falkirk, bringing in, like I said, Erin Robertson's coming in as well. They've done really well, Falkirk, in terms of recruitment. There's a few good players there as well that obviously have played at a high level. Falkirk for me, but again, there could be... I think this is quite a hard league to predict as the next one until you can really get a feel for where sides are at, because you don't really know who's kind of coming in where until you really see them on the team sheets, to be honest. So we'd put a lot of faith in Falkirk just to be the ones that kick on. League One, Suzanne, obviously a few teams coming up. Do they catching your eye?
I think that's going to be the hardest league to call. I think that there's just so many teams that you kind of think, oh, there's potential there. I think that for me, the one that kind of pops out straight away, maybe haven't done that well the past couple of seasons, is St Mirren, just for the fact that that again, I know some of the players that play there, you know, that have played higher up the league, and obviously with what's going on with the men's side, you know, you think maybe there's a bit of buzz about the place, maybe, you know, they'll get extra funding, maybe they'll get, you know, extra links with the men's club. So for me, I think that there's potential for them to be the ones to watch, definitely, for sure. But in terms of anybody else, again, you know, there's just it's a stab in the dark. I feel that it is quite hard to pick there.
Yeah, it really is. Abby, do you any word about who you think could win the SWF League One?
It's definitely a hard one. As Suzanne says, like, to guarantee kind of, it's not like this out here one where you can kind of say it'll be Rangers or Celtic. I think you never know until, I would say, about October, November, and even then it can all change in like the February, March time. For me, I personally would like to see Bonnyrigg Rose. I think they're a team that are quite underrated, and they've got kind of the signings from Edinburgh City Women's before they kind of went bankrupt, I think it was. Could be wrong. But I think they've kind of got that depth in the team as well. I think there's a lot of youngsters in there, but there's also quite experienced players, and I've watched them a few times now, and I think they're kind of an underrated team to ones to watch, I would say, and I would love for them to do really well. They've got very nice players. They're all quite welcoming as well. So I would hopefully like to see them do quite well. Also, probably St Mirren are ones in the talks, just with the men's side. As you said, the money being put into them. Will there be more money? I think they've been a side that have been underrated. You know, I don't think many people know that St Mirren even have a women's team, just because they're not like Motherwell, Aberdeen, Hibs and Hearts. They're not in that top league. So I think I would kind of like them to get the funding and kind of get themselves up there as well.
Bonnyrigg are jumping out to me. Another side that I think could do quite well could be Giffnock. I don't know if they're going to be good enough to challenge for the league, but I think they've signed pretty well. They've signed a few good players. That league could be very, very close. Again, it always is. You've got a lot of sides coming up as well. I don't know a lot about Dunipace, Inverurie, Armadale, for example, Kilwinning. I think they're really excited about kind of going up and seeing where at. Queen of the South could be good as well. It all depends on Holly Ovens, I think, for them, and kind of a couple of players they've got as well. I'm going to say Bonnyrigg, though. I like the fact that they've kept a lot of their players, and they're a side that just they seem to be really, really kind of forward thinking in terms of the women's game. I think they could be the ones that kick on. Right, finally, it could be a big season for Scotland as they look to qualify for Euro 2025. Suzanne, you kind of know where I'm at because I kind of just gave my wee theory. Do you think they qualify?
I really, really hope so. It's been horrible seeing them qualify for 2 tournaments and then miss out on the next couple. It's just been absolutely horrible. So for me, I really want to see them do it, but I just feel like they're not there, and I don't know. I think that one of the main reasons is Kim Little's retirement. I think people, you know, everybody knows what a quality player she was, but I think taking her out the team, and then also as well, you've got like say Caroline Weir being injured as well. That's a massive blow. But for me, I really think they're just struggling at the moment. I just don't see where, you know, they're going to get the goals. Watching them, you know, I went to the last Scotland game and it was very tight, 1-0. There wasn't a hell of a lot of chances created. You know, for me, I think there does need to be changes like what you discussed. I think that I mean, just talking about what a lot of people were talking about was that contract extension for Pedro was a bit premature. You know, was it a 5-year contract or whatever it was?
I just think that no disrespect to Pedro because he's a likeable guy and things like that. I think giving any sort of international coach a 5-year extension is madness. I don't care if you're Didier Deschamps. I don't care if you're.
That's like 2-3 campaigns. It's it's crazy. 5 years in European.
And also, you've saw Steve Clarke. He's got Scotland to 2 tournaments, and I know I'm probably front of the queue. I don't see him progressing any further.
Yeah.
So I just think it's insanity. I mean, the New England manager, men's manager, won't get a 5-year contract. It's just madness. But is it just a case of trying to stick by somebody because there was obviously a lot of goodwill with the previous coaches? And I get that, but to me, I just think I just don't know if it lasts past the summer. I really hope I'm wrong, but
obviously I was involved, when Vera Pauw was my first coach, and she was in a really long time, and then she got offered a contract with Holland, and then they offered her a better deal to stay, and so she was there for a while, and then Anna was like 10 years or something. Anna was there such a long time, and then when Shelley Kerr came in, Shelley only wanted to stay for that period of time. She said herself, like a couple of campaigns, that was it. She was done, and that's kind of been the difference. Whereas with Pedro, you don't, because they had qualified for 2 tournaments and now they've not. People are starting to wonder, where is the progress? Because you've got players that are playing at top leagues. More players are now playing professional within Scotland and other leagues. So where is the progress? And of course, other nations are progressing as well. So we're competing with that. But yeah, I feel that it does seem that we've just took a wee kind of step back, and now we need to look at it and say, where are we going from here? What is the plan?
I think you saw with the England game as well, when again we have to look at England and say they are one of the tops. I mean, the World Cup finalists, but there was levels. Do you know what I mean? That, and Scotland aren't even close to that. And I'm not saying that they should be, but to then look at giving the manager a new contract after that, there was a lot. I think we said at the time, I'm like, that just doesn't make sense.
And absolutely no disrespect to any of the players for Scotland, but if you look at the England squad and then you look at the England bench, the full England bench probably would get into the Scotland squad start. And then you've also got other players on standby, other players that haven't been picked within the England squad. That again, and of course, it's a much bigger nation. There's a much bigger pool of players to choose from. But when you look at it, where I just feel that we need to be generating more players. We need to be giving more players chances, bringing more players in. Is there players that are playing for too long that are just there because they've been there and they're not really performing? Like, I feel that there really does need to be changes there. And it's personally from a point of view that I want to see them do so well. I want no disrespect to any players. Everybody is trying their best. They're going out there, but I do feel like I want to be supporting them at major tournaments again. I've never jumped up so high when Lee saved that first penalty for it, then retaken, and I was getting knocked out for Argentina. Like, I want to be there. I want to be in the stands, with my kids, cheering them on. And it is just that passionate point of view. I really, really want them to be kicking on.
Abby, where do you see Scotland being at? And do you think this time next summer we could have been talking about Scotland in a European Championship again?
I would love to personally, but I just can't see it happening. I think I think Scotland have the players that can do it, but I just don't see as well. Pedro doesn't kind of look to be the guy that likes to change the team up much, and also he doesn't seem to look into the SWPL as much as kind of the other leagues. I think there's a few in there that kind of deserve to be called up and they're never called up, and there's always the ones from like Rangers, Glasgow City. Is it now the time for Kathleen McGovern, for example, or kind of like those sort of players? And also, is it time for some to go? I don't think kind of some of the players are at the standards that they were a couple of years ago in that World Cup in 2019 or kind of like that. So personally, I can't see it happening, but I would love to. I would love to especially go as well and support them, but I just don't think kind of where we're at now, I just can't see it happening. Whether that be Pedro after this campaign, does he go and then it changes up? I do think a new face and new changes need to be made for us to go further in any kind of campaigns.
And you look at who they could end up against, right? Hungary, Montenegro or Finland. Doesn't scream terrible ties? Like, it really, Finland probably are the three you would think maybe is the most tricky, but I don't look at that and go, that's terrifying. Like, I really don't. But again, if you want to talk about Scotland and bad tournaments, then I'm your man for that. But I just really hope I'm wrong. But again, with the links to Leon as well over the summer, it just seems that I'll be astonished if Pedro sees his contract out. And that's not, I like him, by the way. I just think I just don't see that lasting. And I will put good money on Leanne Ross being the coach of Scotland and Scott Booth sitting in the dugout at Glasgow City. I think that's my big call for the season. But we are back. We are going to be regularly looking at the action in Scottish women's football. To my two guests tonight, it's been a pleasure as always. First of all, to Suzanne Mulvey, thank you very much indeed as always.
Thank you so much. It's been great being back on discussing some of the ins and outs, and again, I just can't wait for another fantastic season.
Absolutely. And to Abigail Strachan as well, thank you very much as always, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Thanks very much, folks. We'll be back next week. Thanks a lot. See you later.